thinking about the Final Four, Sam, the first one that jumps out to me, and I saw this from Evan Abrams, Action Network. He was throwing this out there, and it certainly makes sense. Head coaching experience in the Final Four. Two guys have experience, two guys do not. The ones that have experience, Sampson and Pearl, Shire and Golden, do not in the Final Four. In NCAA tournament history, the coach with more Final Four experience is 119 and 69 against the spread in the Final Four and the championship. In just the Final Four, they're 75 and 46 straight up. So, trend or truth, coaching experience matters in the Final Four.
It's a big enough sample size. Final Four games alone, what, about 120? 120 examples of that, right? I mean, that's enough to be truth. I mean, these are all trends to an extent, but I think it does matter. And there are two things that make me nervous about Duke and Houston. Number one, Shire's first trip to the Final Four. Number two, Duke having that dud shooting the ball. We haven't seen it in a long time. But if they can't put the ball in the basket and they're having a difficult time making their threes, they can easily lose to Houston. I am a little bit nervous about Shire Sampson. That said, Shire's pushed all the right buttons this year. And Duke just has so much more talent. I'm going to lean toward truth, but it's also a truth that I'm not too worried about.
This one is a smaller sample. He adds this. Since 2014, a coach with no Final Four experience facing a coach who has been to a Final Four as a head coach before is 10-4-1 against the spread, but 7-8 straight up. So the one with no experience has been covering the number over the last decade plus. Not winning, but covering. Yeah.
So a bad trend for Shire followed by a good trend for Shire.
Right, I think. And Golden.
So then I guess by design, the first one is not truth. Maybe.
Yeah, I would say the first is truth, this one's trend. That's what I would do. It's a smaller sample, seems kind of random, and then the guys that don't have experience are favored. How many times has that been the situation too? It's kind of a funky situation that we have this year. Will one be the favorite? Not sure about the Florida one. But yeah, I think you're right. I think you're on the right path, that the first one with the much larger sample size is more truth, and that it does matter some, but maybe it just doesn't matter too much. But yeah, I guess we found a fair concern about Duke. I've got a Masters one, but did you have anything else that you want to jump into? Because the Masters one is a bit long. There are a lot of different trends that people take a look at in the Masters.
I know it says College Hoops Masters, but I think we have to talk about the Sacramento overs. I mean, that's, to me, a conversation that we've had all week long. We talked about it first. We talked about it before the first game in Sacramento, and we used the following terms: bandbox, hitter-friendly. We've talked about the humidor and how they're doing a little bit differently there in Sacramento than they are in other parks. And the A's pitching staff is horrible. So it's only been 3 games. That's obviously a very, very, very small sample size. But trend or truth, the Sacramento ballpark is going to be a cash cow to the over. We've seen 18-3, 7-4, 10-2. Trend or truth, we can bet these Sacramento overs until further notice.
You see where the A's are going tomorrow? They're traveling before returning home. They're going to Coors Field.
Oh.
So they're going to Coors, and then they're coming back home for a week against the Padres and the Mets.
Overs.
So
overs,
right?
Hard. It has to be.
That's what we have to consider, that the Cubs have a pretty good offense. It was different guys having monster days. Yesterday afternoon, it was Suzuki. Tucker had a big series. Suzuki had 2 home runs in that game yesterday. these lineups have depth. They have stars that could have big days. So you've got the 3-game series followed by another 3-gamer. I think those are overs. What happens in Coors Field? That will be kind of fun to compare. I know it's a small sample size, but the scoring at Coors for the Athletics games versus the ones in Sacramento.
Here's what I'm hoping for. We get a couple 3-2, 4-3 finals at Coors. Bring them down a little bit so we get 8.5, 9 in Sacramento, and it is full throttle. I heard it again yesterday, dude. Everybody's on the over. I don't give a bleep. I don't care. I don't care. If it's 8.5, I don't care. And we talked about this yesterday. I heard it after day one when we saw 18-3. And then going into Tuesday, I don't know. Everybody's on it. 7-4. Yesterday, everybody's on it. 10-2. I don't care if everybody's on it. If you're going to give me 8.5 in that ballpark, I'm going to bet over more times than not.
Well, you bet Tuesday, the projected starters are Springs and Cease.
Yes.
It'll be a lower number no matter what happens over the next few days.
It'll be 8.
Which
it'll be 8.
Gives us an opportunity. Yeah. Yeah, we'll gladly bet that. I love it. Yeah, so that's truth more than trend. And everybody's on it. Yeah, okay. Go up to your average baseball fan and ask them if they're betting it. I bet you they're not. They're betting on the pitchers they know, the teams that they know before Athletics overs because of the first 3 games. I don't even know if a lot of them are even paying attention to what's happening with the Athletics. I know it was the most popular one yesterday, and I get that, but
sure,
most people not betting totals either. All right, let's go to the Masters. So I'm going to rattle off a bunch of them. And this is a respected golf writer, Dave Tyndall from Betfair, does a great job. And the Masters is something where people take a look at trends because it's the same course and it's the same guys that do well and said course year after year after year. So I'll rattle off a few at a time and let me know what you think. His Masters trend number 1 is it's good for 20-somethings. He said Scheffler was 27 when he won last year. He became the 7th 20-something in the last decade to triumph. So anyone in their 20s, so he has a point system where if you're in your 20s, he gives you more points than if you're in 30s or 40s. But just 2 of the last 10 winners were in their 30s when they won. Tiger was 43 when he won, but his point is those are exceptions to the rule, that most of the time guys that win the Masters are in their 20s. Trend or truth?
I guess truth. I've never considered that I need to bet somebody because they're a certain age. But I mean, all the guys that I want to bet are in their 20s. So, I mean, I guess a roundabout truth. I'm not betting anybody 30 or 40 or higher. So, I guess truth. What about you?
Yeah, I would say that it's truth. And a lot of people just went nuts. And you understand why. When Tiger wins, it's a massive news story. And then some guys that have been around a while, when they win in their 30s, like, hey, it's not just a young man's game. For the most part, it is because they're in their prime. So I think it's truth. It doesn't mean I'm not going to bet on someone because he just turned 30 or 31 years old. But, something to keep in mind that maybe not the guys that used to win 10, 15 years ago should be bet on compared to the ones that are playing well right now and playing well there. A couple others. World ranking, the higher, the better. That makes sense. Let's see. Of the last 10 winners, 8 of them were in the top 20 of the world rankings. Experience, how valuable that is. He dove into that a little bit. Previous Masters finishes as well. So experience at Augusta, world rankings, does that stuff matter to you when betting the Masters?
Not at all. Not one bit.
Experience matters to me because it takes a little time to learn the greens. Spieth had the plan. He got all the info. and that's why he did well at a young age. And then Luda, like, that was such a big story because that typically does not happen. You usually need some experience. So I would look at that one. When we talked to Jeff Feinberg, the only reason that when he thought he was going to be on ESPN after nailing Danny Willett, the only reason they bet Danny Willett that year was because his price was not in line with his rating in the world. That he was at the time, I believe, a top 20 golfer, and then you could find him near 100-1. So that was their handicap. That's why they ended up betting the guy, and it worked out for them. I know some crazy circumstances, but yeah, I don't usually look at world golf ratings, but we know who's good right now, who's a top 20 golfer and who has good experience. So the experience matters to me. World golf ratings, not as much.
I didn't realize that Rory was 35. That was the one guy I was thinking when you said that most guys that win the Masters are in their 20s. So I immediately go to the betting board and see Scotty and then Rory. I thought he was 30-something. I didn't realize 35. I guess I probably should know that. So this system that you're unraveling says no McIlroy next week.
Yeah. It would say no on Rory. Yeah. Are you going to bet Rory? What do you
No.
I mean, we've got a week, but I don't think I am either. I'm always waiting for him to collapse.
I'm looking at the board we have up on the screen. Again, I'm not a big golf age guy, but Scheffler, Luda, Rahm, Morikawa, Bryson, Schauffele, those guys are all in their 20s. And then Thomas has to be older than that, right? Thomas has to be 30-something, doesn't he? Or am I just like way off on that? 31.
Okay, that makes sense.
So no JT and no McIlroy.
Yeah. And if Rory gets this Masters, it's going to be an unreal story. Gets the Grand Slam. Yeah, that would be massive. I think people want it to happen, so they're going to bet it. It is such a short number. He's also hot, and he plays well there majority of the time. But until I see it, I'm not there, man. I've seen Rory just fall apart way too often on Sundays when people think he's there. Like, he'll hang, but is he going to win? No, I'm not going to be there. There are two guys that I would bet right now. And, the tough part is Scheffler. Maybe we start finding ways. I know Jake's been doing this for months, and it's kind of been a bit, but it's probably the smart thing to do. If you know you're going to bet Scheffler next week, let's figure out how do we get a better number on him. And that could be using the Final Four games this weekend or on Monday, or baseball could be using anything.
Doubles for Devers.
Doubles leaders. I'm going to check to see if that market is available. That's my guide. After that one double yesterday where it kind of got lucky, the throw was offline, as he's huffing and puffing, I decided Devers is going to be your doubles leader this year.